You think you know Five Nights at Freddy's, a simple security guard job, some jump scares from creepy animatronics, but what started out as a small indie game has spiraled into one of the most complex, terrifying universes in all of horror. It's a whole multimedia empire now, built by just one person. So let's pull back the curtain and see what's really going on at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
This. This is the simple, absolutely chilling question that started it all. It dared you to sit in that tiny, dark office, frantically checking the cameras and just praying that those mascots would stay put. That one question, that one dare, launched a global phenomenon.
So here's our game plan. We're going to look at how that first game became a viral hit. We'll meet the surprising creator behind all this madness. Then we'll dive into that famously complicated story. After that, we'll see how it made the jump to Hollywood, explore just how big this universe has gotten, and finally, take a peek at what's coming next. All right, first up, let's rewind the clock to 2014. This is when a little indie game dropped and basically took over the internet overnight. The whole concept was just genius in its simplicity. You're stuck in this cramped little office. Your only tools are some security cameras, a couple of lights, and door switches. But here's the hook, the thing that makes it so terrifying. Everything you do drains power. And when that power runs out, well, you're just a sitting duck in the dark, waiting for Freddy and his friends to get you. It's an absolute masterclass in tension.
So what really lit the fuse on this whole thing? YouTube. The game was practically designed for streamers. You had these huge channels like Markiplier and PewDiePie just screaming their lungs out, and millions of people were watching. Next thing to know, absolutely everyone wanted to prove they could survive those 5 nights. It wasn't just a game anymore. It was a full-blown cultural event.
So you have to wonder, right? Who's the mastermind behind this nightmare fuel? Well, the answer is probably not what you'd expect. Let's talk about the creator, Scott Cawthon, because his story is just fascinating. Believe it or not, Five Nights at Freddy's was actually born from failure. Scott had made this family-friendly game, Chipper and Sons Lumber Co., and the feedback was not great. Reviewers kept saying the characters looked like creepy, scary animatronic animals. He was so discouraged that he almost quit game development for good. But then he had this incredible light bulb moment. If people thought his characters were scary by accident, what if he made them scary on purpose? He literally took that negative feedback, the creepy animatronic thing, and built an entire horror game around it. It's just this brilliant story of turning your biggest criticism into your greatest success. Okay, so jump scares are great, but that's not what keeps a franchise going for a decade. The real secret to FNAF's staying power is its story. It's this incredibly deep, hidden, and honestly tragic narrative. So at its heart, the entire story is this massive 40-year tragedy. It kicks off with 2 business partners, William Afton and Henry Emily. But here's the twist. Afton is a serial killer, and he murders children. In their rage and sorrow, the souls of these kids possess the pizzeria's animatronics, basically turning this fun kids' place into a living tomb. And that one horrible act kicks off decades of hauntings and revenge that destroys both of their families. See, it's so much more than scary robots. It's a ghost story about generational trauma. But the genius part is, the game never just tells you any of this stuff. It's a giant puzzle you have to solve, hidden in these weird 8-bit mini-games and garbled phone calls. It basically turned the entire fan community into an army of detectives. You have channels like The Game Theorists with, over 60 videos just trying to piece it all together? That's how you build a seriously dedicated fan base. So with that kind of massive popularity and super deep lore, you know it was only a matter of time before Hollywood came knocking. Let's get into how they managed to bring this digital nightmare to the big screen. Now, adapting this thing was a huge challenge. I mean, how do you take this tangled, sprawling timeline from the games and squeeze it into a 2-hour movie? Well, the Blumhouse film made a smart choice. They streamlined everything into a more focused, character-driven story. Instead of cryptic clues, they gave us a direct, emotional plot. And they really honed in on those iconic original animatronics that everybody wanted to see. And yep, the story is definitely continuing. We've got a sequel on the way, with the same director, Emma Tommy. And get this, they're bringing in some major fan favorites from the second game, like Mangle and the Marionette. They've also said the horror is going to move beyond the pizzeria, and you can bet it's going to be absolutely jam-packed with Easter eggs for the true fans to hunt down. So the movies are obviously a huge deal, but honestly, they're just one piece of a much, much bigger puzzle. The true scale of the Five Nights at Freddy's universe is just Staggering. This isn't just a game series anymore. It is a full-on empire. We're talking 28 video games, not just the main ones, but a ton of spin-offs. 53 books, that includes novels and creepy short story collections. 2 blockbuster films with more coming. Even a real-life horror attractions. It's a true transmedia franchise, telling new stories across pretty much any platform you can think of. But here's what I think is the coolest part. Something you almost never see. Through something called the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative, the creator, Scott Cawthon, actually funds the best fan-made games and makes them official. He brings them right into the canon. It's an amazing tribute to the very community that helped build this whole thing from the ground up. So, after a solid decade of ghosts and haunted robots, you gotta ask, where can a horror series possibly go from here? Well, the future of Fazbear Entertainment might not be what you think. The horror itself is changing. First off, they are not slowing down one bit. The pipeline is completely full. Just in 2026, we're getting the Blu-ray for the second movie, they start filming the third movie, and there's even a spin-off racing game called 5 Laps at Freddy's. Yeah, you heard me right, a racing game. This franchise is definitely keeping us on our toes. But the biggest shift isn't just about more content, it's about a new kind of horror. The story is moving on from the classic ghost story of souls trapped in machines. Now it's heading into a new era of technological terror. The big new villain is a super advanced AI called the Mimic that learns by copying things. This isn't a ghost in the machine anymore. This is the machine becoming the ghost. And that's a whole different, much more modern kind of fear. And that leaves us with a really interesting question, doesn't it? For 10 years, the horror was born from something old. Ghosts, spirits, the paranormal. But now, the franchise is diving headfirst into our fears about modern technology, about truly intelligent AI. It makes you wonder, what kind of nightmares can a machine like that dream up for us?